Hello, Graham.
Hello, Faith. Both you and I have switched our backgrounds for today. I just love your little lights, by the way. And you can only see a part of that if I switch my
Is
camera
that
a bit.
the boulder art, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the
Nice.
boulder in the road when we started our conversation together.
So, welcome back, everyone, to Tea at 3 Looking for Good. You may or may not have noticed that we skipped a week, and we'll talk about that a little bit more this week. But part of that was Graham and I have both come to recognize that we don't always have something that we feel like needs to be shared with the world. And we don't want to dilute this program with just like random little things. And oftentimes our heads are filled with other things that we don't feel like need to be shared in this program, and we can't do two things at once. So we're going to talk about it right now, but I believe moving forward, we will be doing shows less often, more so when we come across those things that we feel like really need to be shared with you guys.
Lovely. And didn't we try to do this, my dear, by both pondering for the week? Because we reached a sort of a fork in the road, and we either continue doing what we do and hunting all week long for something that looks like it's good and that we can share it, and sometimes coming with only half a bucket full of stuff, and not being as truly committed to be able to pass on to one another something that we've really massaged and understood and are just thrilled to release. And maybe we're kind of, well, this could be. And I don't know that either of us was satisfied with could be's. I think we want to know that it's real and that it's valid. What I do care about is whether it finds a place in your life. When I'm talking to you, I'm talking to somebody for whom I care a lot. And yet I can't remember the time when we were in the same room together. So most of why I care for you is this interaction that we've been having between the two of us with people watching us. So we now come to this section of the road, and we have to think about, how do we go forward for this one? Do we simply commit to do something where we're going to go hunting for something to be able to come up with next week? And isn't that the sort of way that most of the media is filled with at the moment? And if there's somebody who looks like they're being disgraced or behaving disgracefully, whoopee! We can talk about him or her. And we can cause all kinds of people to be very satisfied with our program because we're right on the money. We're right where everybody is going. Nah, 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 nah. Well, my dear, I just have got so fed up with being manipulated in the media. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's their survival. But it's not our survival. We don't survive on this basis. The reason why we talk to each other is we care about each other. I love to hear what you feel at 27 years of age. It's really important to me to know what the future is going to be like, because I'm going to be dead and gone. I know that. I don't have to pretend that. I know it. So it's really very vital. So anyway, so I just want to know what you've been pondering.
I think in accordance with this show, as something that's similar to what you have already said, I think that there is so much media out there just coming back every week, not necessarily having something real to say, didn't feel right anymore. As much fun as it is to have that like strict schedule in order to like be forced to ponder more often, we've been doing it for long enough now that I think we're the vast bucket we had of things to share of our lives has run a little low. So yeah, I think coming back and doing this program when we have something worth sharing will be more meaningful for us and hopefully for the people watching. Outside of this program, the things that have been as I'm still dedicated to this theory of looking for good, and the things that have been doing that for me lately I've been doing a lot of like physical projects, like physical transformations, like what I talked about before with the like restoring the coffee tables. I've been like, I like painted a lamp and I like redid this mirror, and like being able to see the complete like 180 change from something that is like essentially being thrown away because I got them at an auction, essentially being thrown away and into like having new life and having new value. That has just been a very wonderful metaphor for me to be living in, of like restoring the physical things around me in order to like comparing that to restoring like the mental and communal things around me as well.
Lovely. Yeah, that so fits into what I've been doing, because I had a young lady who, a little younger than you, who's been through a culinary course, and she was finding it very difficult for her personal faith, because she has to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she's baking bread, and she has to weigh everything and measure things, and it all has to be done. Baking is real science, and you can't play games with it. You can't throw in an extra cup of flour. And she finds that she's so preoccupied with doing what she's doing that she doesn't feel that she has provided enough room for her personal private faith, and wanted to be able to know how that might be possible. So I immediately, you know me, I mean, I understand the problem that I have. So I'm Mr. Fix-It. So I'm just trying, I'm going through all the things which I have found myself in exactly that position many, many times. And what I did was this. And I felt like, no, this is not about you and what you did. This is about her and what she needs. And you are going to have to shut up and listen to what she has to say. And then if you get an idea that comes into your head, that might be more fitting for her than what you can come up with. Because from a faith point of view, you could say that this is God speaking through you to someone else. And if one is genuinely waiting for something like that to happen, then I think it can. But so often in my case, I keep on dreaming up metaphors and everything else, to satisfy. Anyway, we had a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad it wasn't recorded, because it was just happening between me and her. But I'm aware of the fact that people are watching as I talk to you. Mm-hmm. And that's different, because there's a performer in me that just won't lie down and die. But there is a person in me who is genuinely wanting to share that which is good with you. And doesn't matter about who's watching. So that's a dichotomy. So I would like to be able to have these conversations with you and decide after we have had the conversation about whether we're going to let people see it or not. Right? So it's not that we'll meet on such and such and we'll have another episode. It's we'll meet on such and such and we'll have a conversation, and then we'll decide whether we have another episode or not between the two of us.
Yeah, I like that balance, in that I'll say I am selfless to a fault, in that the fault is like I don't feel like I have very strong opinions about a lot of things, and I know that I don't have a very good like factual memory, and so I can't like bring up a fact to argue a point, and so I often just will stay quiet in a conversation, because I don't feel like the conversation needs my opinion into it oftentimes. And so through this process of like being recorded and having other people watching being like, hey, you should talk as much as Graham because this is a conversation, and me being like, oh, okay, I'll actually like work hard and ponder legitimate things to say. And so that I feel confident speaking more in a conversation. And the fact that this has been recorded for me was that pressure that got me to speak more and think more deeply about things in order to not just say bullshit. And so I think that the balance of like, yes, coming, because I don't want to lose this relationship. Obviously, this is something that's been very meaningful to both of us.
Mm.
And I think that that's a great balance of like coming together and still having that like, yes, this is being recorded, so you should speak faith, but then also being able to have that conversation after the fact, honestly, about like, did we say something meaningful enough that this needs to be shared with the world or not? Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
What I got before we started the program, I got a very distinct visual, which is not unlike the way that our conversations have started. I saw a pond. I don't know whether you remember, but at the beginning we were thinking about calling the program Beyond the Pond, so that we knew that our pond, the pond of our life, was like the surface of our mind. And that when we open our mind up to be rained upon, then the volume of our understanding about the world seems to go up in its level until eventually the pond overflows and has a trickle of water, and we take an action based upon what we're thinking, and we act upon what we're thinking, and the world is changed by that rivulet of our thoughts turned into actions. And the problem is today that we are subject to so much rain from so many different sources that it's hard for me to be able to sort out in my mind the way that I really think about something. And I can actually see myself starting to take actions which are based upon input that I've received and simply absorbed. So I want to go back to that idea of the pond again, which is your mind and mine. So I take an idea now and I throw the idea into the middle of the pond, splosh, and it starts to send out little ripples. If you watch the ripples, they go all the way to the outside of the pond because it's just you and I. It's your pond I just threw an idea into. And as it ripples out, it touches the outside of the pond. Now, if we were in a pond, by a pond in a forest at the present moment, you and I could kneel down by the side of that and look at that ripple arriving on this edge of that pond. And if there was a leaf there, we might see, if we really watched carefully, the leaf change its position just a bit. Maybe some earth dissolved a little bit, but then the ripples were over and everything looked as if it hadn't changed at all. But everything had. Everything had changed. And this is what I think we expose ourselves to day after day, is the ripple effect, which actually changes the world around us in some way and gives us a different perception. I long for that to be based upon truth. And I don't any longer know where to go to get truth. From a personal, private, Christian point of view, and I hate to use the word nowadays because we've been so divided in public that people can take up whatever's been raining on their mind and make they have a idea about what a Christian is that they may like or may not like. And I don't want to be in that position, with people. So I'm more likely to be quiet about being a Christian than public because of that misconception factor. So I'm really now believing that there really is some truth. And the best I know how, it's just that book which has been handed on, which we call the Bible. So there's parts of that which is sometimes difficult and misrepresented, but by and large, there is a source of the truth there. And so I don't want to insist on my way based upon that Bible, because I read in 1 Corinthians 12, the love chapter, one of the characteristics of love is that it doesn't insist on its own way, which I don't think I've been doing with you, have I? I mean, I love to throw stones in your pond, but I'm not doing them. Now, now you believe as I do. I don't. It's an offering that we throw into the pond. So all I'm trying to say as a result of that is it's such a privilege to share pebbles that I can throw into your pond and to receive ones that you've thrown into mine. And I can tell you my leaves have changed and my earth has dissolved because of what you've spoken into my life. And I think, therefore, that every 80, 90-year-old person that I know should listen to a young person and hear what they have to say, because I know that you are going to be living into the future, so that you could be future thinking and future acting is extremely reasonable. The fact that I don't want to give up certain things that I think are really marvelous and should never be shifted because they're so good, that's entirely reasonable. The fact that we would share those sensations and feelings with each other in a way so that we are not insisting is a future that there is based upon wisdom and based upon energy and expectation. And it's so amazing, my dear, that we cannot just give it up. That which I had never thought of this before this program started today, that we would actually do a program and then we would ask each other, should that be seen? Should that, in the great pond of life, where we also won't meet most of the people who ever watch it, could this shift a leaf somewhere in a beneficial way? I'd love my life to mean something for somebody, but I don't want to insist on it. I don't even want to think that way, in a sense. I would love it to happen, but I don't think it's my voice and demeanor that does it. I think I could be a conduit, but I don't want to be the object,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you and I are similar in that way. That I have never wanted to tell someone how to feel or what to do. I simply am here to share my own experience. And if that is something that someone else finds helpful, then that's amazingly meaningful to me and to them, hopefully. So
and love that. Amazingly meaningful. That's exactly right. It takes you by surprise, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely can.
Joyful surprise.
Yeah, and I think also, like, as you were saying, every 80, 90-year-old should talk to a 20-something-year-old. Every 20-something-year-old should talk to an 80, 90-year-old, because it's not a perspective that I had very often in my life. My grandma is my mom's stepmom, so she's a little bit younger than what most people's grandmas are who are my age, and the rest of my grandparents are no longer alive and haven't been since I was fairly young. So there's not really a older generation that I've had a lot of experience talking to, and having this experience with you has been hugely insightful into what that is like, and seeing someone who has seen so much change in the world makes it possible to makes it hopeful to work for change and know that it can come about and change does happen. when what I've seen in my life has been like, why does nothing ever happen or something like that, even though I have seen change in my life, but it can feel that way at times that
Absolutely.
nothing is happening. But yeah.
It's so important to me because you are facing this road ahead, and there are many intersections in that road where you're going to have to make value judgments about where you and Jacob go. And I think that to the extent that I can throw the odd pebble of experience into that pond, and that can set something going in your mind for the future, what a privilege that is. It is, and it's a responsibility. And I, because of what's going on at the very moment in our political world, I'm reminded of a scripture reference which speaks a lot to me, not to other people at the moment, which is, we will be held to account for every careless word we speak. And I want that to be the way that I talk to you. So, how are you going to tie that up?
Okay, well, so moving forward, we will be continuing to meet and talk with each other. And at the end of those conversations, we will decide together if there is something that is truly meaningful enough that we want to share with our audience. So thank you, everyone, for being patient in that and knowing that these programs will hopefully be only more meaningful from here on out. But it might be a little bit sporadic. And for those of you who are on our email list, we will try and make sure we send out an email letting you know when we are sending out another episode. And also for those on Patreon, we'll try and let those patrons know when we are sending out another episode. I can't predict how often that will be, but as often as good thoughts come to our minds, you will see them. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here in this process. Thank you for your kindness in accepting us and finding something meaningful in the words that we spew out to each other. We wholeheartedly appreciate you and are so glad that you are here. And hopefully you will continue to be.
Can I just add a PS to that?
Mm-hmm.
If you would help us to understand that we seem to have arrived at the right decision, and that you would put just a note at the bottom in the comments section to us, I think that would help both of us feel that we're on the right track, which we would love to be for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
So this has been Tea at 3, Looking for Good. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Yes.
Bye.